You don't have to get into full detail. I'm already pretty familiar, not completely. Of course, you're the person that actually went through it, but there's a couple other YouTube videos that talk about that your bigger homie that ratted on you to get time off of his sentence and gave you ultimately got you life. How do you feel about that homie becoming a gangster rapper over in Korea? What's going on, YouTube? Back at it with another interview. We've had a few guests on this channel with some truly insane stories, but today's guest is somebody that you guys have been asking me about ever since I started doing interviews on this channel. When I first heard his testimony on another awesome YouTube channel called Hood Stocks, I was blown away, and I had to reach out and get him on this channel because his story is something the people out there need to hear. Without further ado, I'm going to let the big homie introduce himself.
So you guys, my name is Justin. Um, I'm Korean. I came here when I was 2 years old from South Korea. I've been sharing my story a lot on different platforms, but we came here for a better life, for the American dream. So I've been living here in Southern California ever since.
Okay.
So
For the people out there that don't know who you are, tell them a little bit about your upbringing and childhood. You said you grew up here in California?
yeah, so like most Korean Americans, right? Well, I grew up as the only child, but as many of us, our parents worked hard. My parents, they worked multiple jobs to provide for me. And at that time, I didn't understand it. They were doing everything they can, but to me, I felt like they were just too busy for me. But they would send me to like Hagwon, which is like an after-school program where I would be in, daycare. So I was always away from the family, but I just grew up just by myself as an only child.
Man, so I'm also an only child. And on that topic, looking back, do you think being an only child caused you to seek more validation from the homies, or how was it for you growing up?
So growing up, like there was a lot of loneliness.
Hmm.
I couldn't really relate. I was like really scrawny. I was quiet, kind of nerdy. So I couldn't really relate to a lot of people,
Mm,
and I just wanted to fit in. So right, there's a lot of things that I didn't know how to deal with at a young age, and
gotcha.
especially like my parents always being away, we didn't really have that dialogue or that communication.
So your parents, you said they worked really hard. So basically, you were after you got out of school, you were unsupervised. You were just free to roam the streets.
Yeah, I mean, up until a certain age where I was old enough to take care of myself, but up
Mm,
until then, I was always at like a friend's house, like
mm.
a family friend or a daycare. Yeah, so that was most of my childhood just growing up.
What city did you grow up in here in California?
When I first moved to America, it was San Fernando Valley.
Okay.
So I remember the little earthquake that happened in '92.
Mm,
And then I moved to Koreatown. So I lived
mm,
there for a little bit off Third and Vermont. And
okay.
then from there, mainly in Orange County.
Mm.
So from there, I moved to Anaheim, Buena Park, Cypress. So a lot of my friends were from that area, Cerritos, Cypress, that area.
Okay, so
And
you
then,
moved around a lot when you were young.
yeah, and I think that had a lot to do with my upbringing too, because I couldn't really find like a stable friendship.
Hmm.
So yeah, it was just a lot. It was a lot going on for me.
I got you. How old were you when you lived in Koreatown?
I was a baby, like
Oh, okay.
3, 4, 5. So I don't really remember much.
Okay. Okay. So, and you said you did most of your growing up over there in Cerritos, Orange County area?
Yeah.
Gotcha. So, what school did you go out there in Cerritos or in that area?
In Cyprus, I went to elementary over there, Arnold
Okay.
Elementary.
Okay. Okay. And at what point, okay, as a fellow Korean, what were some of the struggles you faced growing up here in California? Were you ever discriminated against? How was it like?
Yeah, so I mean, growing up in Cyprus wasn't too bad because there was a lot of Koreans where I went to school at. So we congregated a lot, we hung out together a lot. But then after when I got into junior high, that's when I moved to Fontana.
Mm,
So there was a lot of stuff I didn't know how to deal with because there's majority blacks and Hispanics out there. So I would always hear racial slurs and right, just they would pick on me and it just kept building up and building up.
mm. What age would you say you really started getting into trouble with the law?
Um, Probably when I was 14, 15.
Juvenile cases, like something like minor?
I mean, not even that. I mean, I was ditching school, smoking weed.
Gotcha,
uh,
gotcha.
drinking alcohol. Yeah.
Did it ever escalate ever above weed? Did you ever get into anything harder than that, or just marijuana and drinks?
Just marijuana. I tried like meth once, cocaine once. I didn't like it.
Not for you?
Uh, yeah, I just stuck with
Okay.
marijuana. Yeah.
Okay. So by the time you were getting into trouble at 14, 15 years old, did your parents have any idea what you were getting into?
Not really, because I was able to like keep a good front, right? They're always at work. Um, right? In Orange County, I went to Sarang Church. It's in Anaheim. So a lot of the people would smoke back there, drink, well, fight, go body shots full of pox. I mean, I'll come home like bruised up, but they didn't see like my body.
Yeah,
So
I've seen that as like a kind of like a pattern. A lot of these Korean churches have a lot of active gang members going and like they
yeah, I mean,
congregate.
yeah, back then, I don't know about now, but for sure back then.
Right. Like back like we're from a different era, I believe.
Hmm.
For sure. Uh
Yeah,
so you said you started getting into trouble in Orange County. That's where you first started catching your cases?
it's minor, right?
Minor cases.
Like breaking into people's houses. We don't know what we're doing. We're still young. We're just trying to fit in and be cool.
How did you get linked up with the first type of people, like with the group of friends that wanted you to start doing dirt and stuff like that?
I mean, so growing up in that area is always prevailing with gangs,
Mm,
right? So we would hear about these gangs, and whenever they came around, like we would get picked on, we'll get tagged, like even like sometimes we'll go back down to Koreatown just to hang out, and we'll get hit up. And at that time, we're like, man, like why are they doing this? Like we're just young. They'll take our shoes, take our money, our earrings. And back then we dressed, I guess, kind of banged out, like white t-shirt, baggy jeans, white shoes. So they're like, where you guys from? We're like, man, we're not from nowhere. From Orange County, Cypress, Cerritos. But yeah, and all that started back, I would say the first time I got hit up was when I was like seventh grade.
who'd you get hit up by? Do you know?
I remember the name Mental Boys.
Mental Boys.
And yeah, I was like, man, why would they do that?
This
I
was
would
in
ask one of the
Koreatown.
Yeah, and I would ask one
Gotcha.
of the older guys, right? And they're like, man, because it's easy. It's just taking candy from a baby. I'm like, man,
Mm, man. So okay. Getting hit up by the mental boys growing up. And you are from a Korean gang, right?
yeah,
Gotcha. And then this Korean gang, HKB.
yeah,
Gotcha. And this is a Roland Heights hood, right? If I'm not
yeah,
mistaken. So how
yeah.
did you end
So,
up in Roland Heights?
so like a lot of my friends had moved out there, like
Okay.
that area, Diamond Bar, Brea, Roland Heights. So a
Hmm.
lot of my good friends, I would continue to visit them. Even when I moved to Fontana, I'll come down and we'll just kick in Roland Heights. We'll hang out. We'll whatever, smoke weed, go to Noraebang, kick it. And I remember there's a particular incident where me and my friend we're kicking that at a pool hall, and I didn't know at that time that's where they hung out at. So we're hanging out at a pool hall, and that area is known for there's a lot of like Chinese gangs, a lot of Taiwanese gangs. So there's a bunch of gang members all dressed in red, same color. So you already know these guys are from somewhere. And me and my friend Sid, we're just hanging out, just the two of us, just smoking, chopping it up. And then out the pool hall, we see three guys come out. And three guys just walking, just mobbing to the group of men, just hit him up. This West Side Hankook Boyz gang, what's up? Where you from? And nobody said nothing. So at that time, I was like, man, like they just ranked out. That's the coolest. Like in my mind, I'm 15, 16. So to me, that's like the coolest thing ever. Like something we
Mm-hmm.
see in a movie.
Hmm.
So those group of men, three guys, they come up to us and they're like, "You guys Korean?"
Mm,
And we're like, "Yeah." So that was my first like real encounter with Korean gangs.
gotcha.
Um, like not getting hit up, but they were just like, okay,
Hmm.
like you're Korean, you're good.
Right.
So they walked away, and I felt like a sense of pride, like man, proud to be Korean.
Gotcha. So that was your first real encounter of like an actual official like Korean hood.
Yeah,
And this was in Roland Heights?
yeah, Rolling Heights.
Gotcha. And like in Roland Heights, there's a lot of watching out there, right?
Yeah, watching. Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. So after initially meeting these group of men, how did you get closer with them and how was that transition like?
So ever since that incident, it was always in my mind, like, man, these guys are bad. These guys are hard. Like, if there's
Mhm.
any gang, like, I want to bang with Hankook Boyz.
Gotcha.
So, at that time, I was going to Etowanda High School, which is in Fontana.
Okay.
And one of the guys had moved out there, and like it's a small city, so everybody knows like the Koreans that come out there.
Mhm, mhm.
So one of my friends told me, "Hey, this guy, he's from Hankook Boys. He slangs weed."
Mm.
So, and I was like, "Okay, that's my way." Then I was like, "Man, hook me up with this guy." So, a few months go by, nothing of it, and then I get a phone call one day, and I was in my sixth period class, and he goes, "Hey, my name is Daniel. I heard you trying to buy some weed." And I was like, "Yeah, we're trying to meet you up after school. Just come to this restaurant in Etiwanda." So after school, me and my friend we walked over there, and right, he was like, "Here's some weed. Just smoke it up." And he was chill, super cool. So we smoked. We talked about it. And he was like, "Man, I heard you want to bang." I was like that was my chance. I was like, "Yup." I just met the guy first day, but I had always heard about them, and I wanted to just get in.
Mhm. So you, after you let him know that you were interested, how long was it before you actually got official?
So after we smoked a couple blunts, he made a few phone calls,
Okay.
and three more people showed up. And I'm scrawny, like 16 years old. All the other guys were like 18, 19, 20. They're older. So they come in and right, they're like, "You really trying to bang?" I was like, "Yeah, I'm down." And then I brought my friend with me, but he was just right. He's Cambodian, and he was just looking, like observing the whole thing, make sure nothing really dirty happens. So I'm like, "Yeah, I'm down." So the guy that hit me up, he walks up to me and he kicks me straight in my face. Short guy, I didn't even expect it, and
Damn.
that's when the initiation started.
Gotcha.
So I'm getting jumped in by three people, and it's bad. It's bad. One guy comes up and uppercuts me. Boom, knocked out. I get
You
up.
got knocked out cold?
No, like knocked down to the floor,
Knocked
and
down?
and and my teeth was knocked out. I was
Damn.
like, damn, these guys are serious, right? So I
Mhm.
get up, and one of the guy comes up to me and says, "You good?" I'm like, "I'm good." Bam, cracks me again. Oh, man, these fools kind of dirty, man. And after I'm on the ground, they stomp me out, and it feels like at least a minute went by,
Man.
and I get up, and the first thing they say is, "Welcome to the family." And at that time, because acceptance was more than it meant everything to me, right? So just hearing those words, it was like, man, I'm part of something now. I'm not just Justin from Orange County, or I moved around so much. It's like I have an identity now. So to me, it's like I was beat up, got jumped, teeth knocked out, but I was somebody.
Gotcha. And they called you silent, right?
Yeah. So when my teeth was knocked out, right, I was whispering because I was embarrassed to talk, and they're like, "Man, we're gonna call you Whispers." I'm like, "Damn, that kind of sounds like a soft name, you know?" I told him, "Nah, I don't like that name, man." But, "Alright, we're gonna call you Silent." "Alright, I like
Gotcha.
that."
Okay, so after you got your official, you're hanging out with the boys. How okay, and I'm already familiar with your case. We could build up to it, but I know you went down for a hot one, and I know your parole process was filled with ups and downs. Do you want to maybe walk the viewers through how it eventually got to that point?
Yeah, so so after I got in the hood, I'm kicking it with them every day, smoking, drinking, just everything, right?
Hmm.
Um, and I feel like I was the man. 16 years old, I'm going to the bars and not getting carded, hanging out 2, 3 in the morning, coming home. And my family was worried, but by that time I had built up so much resentment against them. They're never home. They can't tell me nothing. Um, and to me, it's like this is my new family.
Mm,
So just kicking it with them every day, and right, I've already heard about them before I got in the hood, and to see them in action, right, to see the older homies put in work, I'm like, okay, like this is how it really goes down. The first day I got in, we went to, uh, I think they don't have it no more, but it was a bar called Good Times. I don't know if it's still around, but we went to that bar, and some rival gang members had come in, and that was my first time, right, seeing them in action. They hopped up, got down, chased them out. Like a lot of stuff happened. So to me, I was like, man, this stuff is real. So in my mind, it's like now we got to build up that reputation. So me being the youngest one, Daniel, he's the next youngest one. He's 18 years old. So right, and then my homie, my Cambodian homie, he eventually got in later on.
Oh, the
Because
same game. He joined the HKB.
not HKB, but we created another clip. You
Okay.
know, not a lot of people know about it, but we created a clip called Killer Side.
Okay.
So at that time, we were just recruiting anybody that's Asian.
Gotcha.
So that's how he got in. So he was representing Killer Side, but right, it was a little clip that we had created.
Okay.
So by that time, we were just putting in a lot of work, hitting up a lot of spots, a lot of gang members, and the people that I got picked on in Orange County, right? I was like, man, I'm gonna get these guys. I'm gonna go down over there, drive around, being on these fools, and that was my mentality for the most part. And obviously, like I was still kind of like scared because I was still young.
Mhm.
Like, what if I get shot? What if I get killed?
Mm.
And I've been stabbed. I've been jumped. And after going through all that, it just built up more resentment and callousness. Now it's like, okay, I know what I signed up for, and I know what they signed up for, and it's fair game.
Mhm.
If they get hit or if I get hit, it's still fair game. So I built up that mentality. It's twisted, but especially now that I think about it, is right, we're hurting our own, right? Other Korean members of the gang or other Asian members of the gang. Yeah, so that was going on for the next several months. And then we go to a party in Rolling Heights, right? And we heard about a party because it was a friend of a friend, a mutual party. We go over there, we're hanging out, kicking it, drinking, smoking. And then later, we had heard that some rival gangs had come in. And by that time is I've been jumped by them, I've been stabbed, so it's like, okay, this is my first opportunity to really get them and prove to all the homies, all the older homies were there at the party, so it was my chance to shine. So everything everything made sense to me. It's like I have to do this. They're telling me you're the youngest one, you gotta put in the work, it's your time to shine. And they will tell me stuff like, we chose you. Like you didn't pick us. So I felt elite. Like, okay. And all this stuff is running through my mind. Mind you, I'm drunk, I'm high. I'm like, man, this is my chance to be a gangster, a
Mhm.
chance to be somebody down for the hood. So right when we heard that the rival gang members had come in, right, we quickly had a meeting in front of the house. And one of the older homies said, who wants to handle it? I already know what that meant. I'll do it. And I mean, looking back now, because I heard, even though I heard like they're rival gang members, I heard some of them weren't rival gang members. And just looking back now, reading some of the police reports, and they weren't, right? It was a mistaken identity. They might have known somebody that they were affiliated, but the person that actually was murdered, that I actually killed, was not a gang member. And like it's devastating, bro. I think about it every time, especially when that date comes around, when the holidays come around. We just had right Christmas, New Year's, and like yeah, I suffered. My family suffered because of my actions, but this family is still suffering, right? So it's tragic. A lot of times we don't think about it. As kids, we're just gang banging. They got us. We gotta get them. And a lot of there's innocent bystanders along the way that don't deserve to get hurt, right? They don't deserve to get killed, even if they were gang members. Nobody deserves to have their life taken away at such a young age. So I think about, that family, and I don't want to call them the victim's family. I want to call them survivors. But right, they're still suffering because of what I've done. And I look back at everything that I've done and how I became this person was because I was so insecure, because I was so lonely. I didn't know how to deal with my emotions. I blamed everything on my parents, right? They wanted a better dream for me. And really, I'm not without excuse. I never like grew up in the hood, like in the projects. I was pretty privileged. Grew up in a good family, middle class family. We struggled a little bit, but it wasn't a point where, right, I had to go hustle. I was pretty well off. So thinking about it, like I didn't know how to deal with my emotions. I blamed everybody around me and just getting bullied, getting picked on, getting jumped, slapped around. And I felt justified at that moment. And I was a coward. I was a coward. And when that opportunity came up, I wanted to just unleash my wrath, my hurt upon them. So, I talked about it in different platforms, but that moment I felt completely justified. And even to the point where after the shooting happened, me and my homies, we celebrated. We smoked some more weed, and I think about how like it's disgusting, man, right? Just to celebrate a death that we did. So I say all that because right after the crime happened, um, 4 months went by. It could have been a cold case. I went about my life in high school like nothing ever happened, and we could have got away with it.
Mm.
But one of my older homies, he got locked up for a robbery, um, and he was facing a few years. He didn't want to end up doing the time, so he told the officer or the detectives that he has information about a shooting.
Mm.
So he gave up my name, my Cambodian homie, and Daniel. So that's how the whole investigation started getting rolling. So for the life of me, I was like, man, that's like, why would he do that? He wasn't even facing that much time, right? Like that's my life, Daniel's life, and the Cambodian homie's life.
And this guy had nothing to do with that case.
Yeah, it could have been a cold case, but that was my mindset at the
Gotcha.
time. But now, I mean, of course, as the years go by, I know I was justifiably sentenced to life. Like I do take full responsibility for that. And regardless of how it went down, how the whole case unfolded, it was my fault that I put myself in the situation of those type of people, right? When you're around gang members, there's no morals, man. Like everybody's trying to save themselves at the end of the day. There's no morals, really. It's a bunch of dirtbags. I'm gonna say it like this. Bunch of cowards and dirtbags. And I'm saying it for myself because that's what I was, right? I'm not saying everybody's like that, but because some people grew up in the hood and have no choice. But for me, it was I surrounded myself with those type of men, and I did it because I was insecure. I was a coward. I wanted to cover up all the hurt, all the resentment that I was going through. I didn't know how to deal with it, so I thought by being violent, creating this identity, that people would respect me.
Gotcha. So about your case, you don't have to get into full detail. I'm already pretty familiar, not completely. Of course, you're the person that actually went through it, but there's a couple other YouTube videos that talk about that your bigger homie that ratted on you to get time off of his sentence and gave you ultimately got you life. How do you feel about that homie becoming a gangster rapper over in Korea?
And after I got out, right, this is after 14 years,
14 years.
and I'm like, dang, this guy is like, like he created a whole like persona.
Yeah,
And a part of me was like, man, like if they knew.
man,
But I found it in my heart to forgive him years ago
that's amazing, bro.
because I had so much hate. Like if I saw him, I was gonna get him. And there was a time where my crimey, Daniel, he ran across him in the county jail.
Oh,
So
wow.
so when we're going to court, right? And he was going to court because he's testifying against us.
Gotcha.
And there was a time where, he told me, like, we would talk through the tanks, through the walls.
You and Daniel?
And- yeah, me and Daniel. Because we would
Okay.
go to the court tank in Pomona.
Mhm.
So I was a juvenile at the time. He's in the adult court tank, but we'll
Right,
talk
right.
through the walls.
Okay.
And he was like, man, they put me in with him. And the moment he saw him, he told me he put hands on him like bad,
Okay.
you know.
Wow.
And those are the type of thoughts that I had, like, man, I want to get him so bad.
Man.
And that bitterness, that rage, it was just boiling up inside of me.
Mhm.
And I would have dreams, right? Right. If it's in that lifestyle, you're gonna get to the pen. So once I hit mainline, Pelican Bay, Corcoran, and all that, I was like, I'm about to see that fool.
Right.
If I do, it's fair game.
Man.
For years, I would have dreams like I would retaliate.
Mhm.
But that started to eat me up alive too, like all that hate and bitterness.
Yeah.
And I realized I didn't want to be like that. And, after you do it a long time, right, the world forgets about you. It's just you and time. So I want to be better before my family. I want to be better before God. I grew up in a Christian home, and just reading the Bible too, just studying a lot, and I want to be forgiven. If I want to be forgiven, I need to be able to forgive others. As much as hurt as I've been and went through, I need to extend that compassion on the people that hurt me. So over the years, I finally let it go, and to the point where, like, what would I do? Because I always dreamt of, like, man, if I saw that dude on the yard, like, what am I gonna do? Right? What are the homies gonna think? Right? Because everybody, like, they know who's who. They check paperwork, where it gets around. There was a point in time where he was locked up in the pen for a little bit, and he came down to the county jail, and so word gets around, right? So, but it took a lot out of me, man. But I finally, after a long time, um, I finally found in my heart, if I do see him, I'm not gonna retaliate. I'm not gonna attack him. If anything, I'll probably give him a heads up, like, this is what your paperwork says, you can't be here. If he gets on the main line, right? I'll probably give him a heads up. Hey, gotta go.
That's amazing, bro. Like that's an incredible testimony. Me personally, I wasn't rocking with the fact that he had essentially snitched and went over to Korea to keep impersonating this gangster image to a bunch of people who aren't really street savvy. But I mean, like you said, I think the people are pretty aware of what happened, even the general public. I see the YouTube comments and people have been asking me to cover that side of the story. Only reason why I haven't is because I personally know people that know him, and it hit a little too close to home, and I didn't
Yeah,
want to air out that dirty laundry. That's the
yeah.
same reason why I'm not name dropping anybody right now. But that's incredible, brother, that you found it in your heart to forgive him, and you were able to move past that.
Yeah, and that's why I'm not saying his name. I don't wanna put it out there. I don't think people really don't care nowadays. They're just trying to get by, live. If you're in that scene, then that's something else, but if you're not, for the most part, we're just trying to make ends meet and be with our families and loved ones, and that's old stuff. It's really old stuff. It happens all the time, but that's the reality of gangs. People will snitch, even on the main line, people will roll it up. People will roll it up just to save their own.
Hmm. Okay, moving past the case, you went down for the hot one. Homie snitched on you. You got life, and I know in your hood stocks testimony, you talked about appealing for parole, getting denied, trying again. Do you want to let the viewers know how that process was for you?
When I was in prison?
Yeah, like trying to get out, like fighting for
Oh,
your
yeah.
life.
Man, yeah, it was literally fighting, like, tooth and nail, like, scratching my way out. Um, because I know deep inside I don't deserve to get out. Deep inside, this is, regardless of how it went down again, this is something that me and my homies did. He had nothing to do with it. He was part of the hood, the gang. So he had knowledge of it, right? Right? The whole thing did initiate because of that confrontation, but ultimately it's because of what I did, what I chose to do. So I know I was justifiably sentenced to 82 years to life. Um, but a lot of the laws began to change with the juvenile laws. Our brains not fully developed, and the environment had a lot to do with it. Alcohol, drugs, weed. So they're saying how we shouldn't be fully responsible for everything that we've done, but of course, like, we need to do the time. So my sentence got dropped from 82 years to life to 25 to life.
Mm,
So I was still supposed to do about 25 years before
gotcha.
parole. But by that time, I had already turned my life around. Just wanted to be better, just better, make better use of my time. Read. I read a lot. Got my GED in there. And then the opportunity came where I applied for clemency, which is a commutation of your sentence, where the governor has discretion to reduce your sentence based on your rehabilitation. And staying clean in prison is hard because is violent, it cracks off, there's politics, people test you. So I was able to navigate all that without any write-ups.
Mm,
And I didn't present myself as somebody hard or trying to put in work. By the time I hit the pen, I was already set. Like I'm gonna turn my life around, whether I get out or not, whether I die in here. I want to die as somebody respectable, not before the men inside, but before my family. So I was the one always going to group, facilitating group, anger management, criminal gangs anonymous, alcoholic anonymous. So people recognize me as the guy, like, okay, he's the guy to talk to. Like if you need to get into groups, if you need any resources, books. So I was just giving my wisdom to the men inside, people that are a lot older, but I got it at a young age. It clicked for me. So when the opportunity came, for clemency, everything I was ready. Everything lined up. No write up. Got my certificates, my degrees, my self help. So when the governor looked into my case, he said this is what rehabilitation looks like. Somebody that came in young, turned away from the gangs, and bettered himself. He deserves another chance. So long story short, my sentence got reduced from 25 to life to 15 years to life.
amazing.
So I ended up going to the parole board on my 13th year. So, and that's a whole nother story. To prepare for the board, you go in front of two commissioners. There's a district attorney. It's almost like trial, but you're just taking full accountability of everything you did to who you are today. So I was able to present who I am, show my accountability, my responsibility, my insight into my causative factors, how I became this person. And after a 2.5 hour hearing, they said I'm suitable for parole. So as a lifer in California, you have to go through a governor's review period. So when the governor's review period came, I got denied parole, even though I went through all the channels of getting granted parole. Long story short was, I mean, legally they used the word lack of insight. I didn't have enough insight into my life crime. I'm still too young. But age has nothing to do with maturity, right? Once you know that you've changed, then you've done the work to change. So the court ruled that you can't use lack of insight as a grounds to deny somebody parole. So I appealed that in court, and I won it. And they granted me immediate release right after that. So I ended up doing about 14 years.
14 years, got out, and I know I'm familiar with your testimony. You said that you ran into immigration issues as soon as you got released.
Yeah, so when I got released, I never stepped foot outside of prison because I was born in Korea.
Gotcha.
So they went through the whole process of deporting me, and I'm still going through that out here.
How is this? How has there been any progress in that case right now? I know I've seen your petition to sign something. I
Yeah,
try to repost that and stuff, try to get the word out there. You know.
yeah. No progress. I got denied on everything that I'm claiming. So right now I'm just in the process of appealing it,
Okay.
and hopefully in the meantime that I'll be able to get a pardon from the governor.
Pardon.
Um, I know I don't deserve to get a pardon. I know I don't deserve to be out here. But I think I've shown enough in the last 3 years that I've been productive. I've been giving back to my community, working, going to school, talking to the youth, and going on platforms such as this to share my story because the reality of gangs is tragic, man. A lot of
Tragic.
people think it's cool and to flash and to throw up signs, but there's so much death, there's so much pain. And when you're locked up, people forget about you. And I think that's like one of the worst feelings of loneliness.
Yeah, no, that's a fact. And your testimony, like I said, is amazing. The fact that you were able to get out, you were able to forgive that man, and now you're working. You've obviously rehabilitated. Is there anything that we can help on, like trying to accelerate your pardon process? Is there something that the people need to sign or anything you got going on as far as like petitions?
Yeah, so all the information is on the website on
Okay,
change.org
okay,
slash let justice stay.
okay.
So everything's on there. Pretty much you copy and paste, and just trying to get the numbers up so the governor it grabs his attention. Like, okay, why is this guy's name keep coming up? Let me look into this guy. What is he doing? And everything will check out that I am who I say I am. I'm doing everything I said I was gonna be doing before I got out of prison. I haven't switched up. Still doing the best that I can.
Man, you know, I really wish I had more time on to really get into your case, but I had mentioned that we are on the free version of Zoom. I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen, but I feel like we pretty much we went through a lot of the things that I wanted to talk about. Is there anything that you want to share with the viewers? Any message, any lesson that you'd like to share before we call it an end to this?
And I would say those of you guys that are still in the street life, gang banging, um, right? You think that you might not get caught, you might not go to jail, because that was my thinking. It could never be me, right? I'll never get life. But it could be any little circumstance. You know, in prison, you meet a lot of people that are three strikers in there for decades, 20, 25 years for non-violent three-strike offense. And that was me for a long time. So you can't think it could never be me, right? Your homie, your best friend, my best friend told on me, my older homie told on me. And the best way to just live is to live an honest life, make good money, working hard, be with your family, and most importantly, just forgive, right? In relationships, there's a lot of hurt, a lot of pain in marriages, and you just gotta learn to forgive and be better. And there's freedom in that.
It's an awesome message, brother. I want to thank you again for taking the time out to come on this platform, brother, sharing your story. I know it can't be easy. And I know it is a sensitive topic because it is something you're still dealing with. So I just wanted to say thank you.
Yeah, thank you for having me, man. And keep doing what you're doing.
Of course, I will,
Yeah,
brother. I will. Thank you so much.
yeah.